Now we have Jalpa Pandya and Visalakshi Ganesh from Tata Consultancy Services, and their topic would be Future of Enterprise Level Process Automation Driven Testing. I would like to call them up on stage, please.
Thank you very much for giving this opportunity to present in STC 2021. Myself is Visalakshi Ganesh. I'm heading automation solutions for the India geography at TCS. I also have my colleague Jalpa Pandya, who is heading the automation consulting and architecture. Today, we will talk about the paper Future of Enterprise Level Process Automation Driven Testing. So basically, why enterprise level process automation driven testing? If you really see the way things are moving, large enterprises are already moving towards the cutting edge technologies for enhancing and modernizing their business processes, for taking very intelligent decisions quickly. Also, they are getting into more of power innovations where they can have with very minimal human involvement, most of their business processes are getting executed. So that calls for testing, moving into the quality engineering and transformation services. That is very critical for the quality deliverables to be delivered at an enterprise level. And also the shift from the pure data centric to process centric, and then finally to move on to the customer experience and the business experience, that is very critical for any organization. Now, how and why these are, and what kind of key drivers have made them move towards this? Definitely, it is complex applications, multi vendor platforms, multi technologies. Then there is an urgency nowadays for launching your new products and services, which is very critical. And also, you're shifting from a front end and a data driven approach to the automation to an enterprise level process driven automation testing. So that is the key drivers here. And what can it, how can it be enabled through the tools and technologies that we are going to have? So especially in terms of your low code, no code, your RPA, AI/ML, your end-to-end lifecycle management through your DevSecOps. These are the critical factors that will come into. Jalpa, move to the next slide. I'm not getting a full view. I'm not sure why. Okay. So, what is that we can do to enable this? Definitely, the answer lies in automation. With the right kind of tools and frameworks, that is the focus that we have to ensure that we are going to do the execution at an extensive enterprise software testing level. And that will ensure there is going to be a flawless end to end business process for achieving the business goals. That's a key. So, with as you all know, the industry is moving to has already moved into the 4.0 standards, and this has increased the practices of predictive maintenance and the scheduled maintenance. Now that these are very very critical because here it is keeping the testing services based on your real time data, that is very very critical. So these predictive maintenance, they are going to use more of machine learning algorithms. That is the key now to manage the testing. And also, in terms of both your live data and your historical data, that is going to be very, very critical to ensure proactive testing early in the life cycle. That is very, very critical here. Now, what is it that we are looking at with constant technology changes? Why is it changing? Because your consumers' needs are growing and we need to give the services as quickly as possible. Definitely, enterprises are looking for modernizing all this as a way of working for them, as well as given all the kind of technologies like cloud computing, quantum computing, AML, big data, ANI. All of these are going to play a very critical role, and testing moving in with a different perspective is very, very critical, wherein we are going to focus with automation led, which is going to be high product diversity, as well as ensuring shorter product life cycles. This. So here we are looking at a lot of assurance services which are getting advanced, and they will ensure to meet the quality standards which is quite appropriate for, as well as the robustness, flexibility, agility, very critical, and of course scalability of all your solutions which can be taken forward. Next slide, please. So, what are the factors that are influencing this from a process level automation testing? Now, if you see, most of the factors in typical quality deliverables in an enterprise level, all the 8 factors which I have listed out are very, very critical. It's not that we have not followed this at some point of time, but today, when we are talking about quality engineering process and into a seamless platform based services that we are offering, all these services have to be built into your platform in terms of the governance and best practices. Adoption of your agile methodology is going to come as seamless into it, as well as making use of all your accessibility, accuracy, availability, all of this built into your platform and your quality engineering process. Security is also a very critical aspect which has to be started off right from the beginning. As I've heard in other sessions also, it's very, very critical. It's built into your platform. So these are very, very critical. Go to the next slide. I'll give you a few of the examples where I would want to talk. The platform-based solutions here. Automation platform solution offers the industry-centric AI-enabled solutions. So here, all the platforms follow a specific pattern of way of testing, and they are enabled through AI as well as the analytics aspects, so that the business gets enhanced experience and the speed to market, as well as not losing out on the quality and the efficiency, and also reducing the cost. This is very, very critical when you're going to a platform based approach. Integration aspects, definitely this is not going to be less. Even if you're having multi platforms, there are integration elements. How are you going to do those kind of transformations and migrations? So earlier we used to have isolated tools and technologies which used to incur a lot of high operational overhead, as well as increasing your operational cost. But with automation, you are improving all these and enabling a seamless customer and business experience across the various applications as well as the channels. There are multi channels, and we are going towards omni channel experience today. And of course, there are going to be a lot of guidelines and policy adherence. This is very critical in terms of all the compliance as per government and industry standards. You need to follow them and bring them in quickly into your life cycle. So that is also going to be tested across in terms of your safety, your data privacy, your payment related aspects, the confidentiality, and also the data storage aspects. So testing as an automation framework and architecture, how do you go about? So the automation architecture and framework needs to be very, very robust with the kind of technology that you are going to implement it on. So which will have a clear wireframe. That will help in all ensuring all the current and the future business as well. The entire NFR testing is going to be at the enterprise level offered on the platform. So these are the aspects that we have to look when we look at the automation framework, making it more robust, making it more standardized. Next slide, please. So, what are the challenges that we are having at our enterprise level automation testing when we're moving towards it? From a business perspective, business growth, they would like to increase a cross sell and upsell, which we should not compromise on the quality and performance with minimal investment. So, testing is becoming very challenging and critical out here. Next is your all your compliance adherence to legal regulations. Very, very critical. You cannot miss on them and not miss on the testing of them. Prediction testing is very, very important for better planning and risk management. This is a critical aspect we need to look in your process based automation testing. Next comes your automation testing, wherein you're moving towards from a data centric to a customer centric, and from product to process centric, and finally to a customer experience as well as a business which understands it, gets a business experience seamlessly. The other aspects that we need to take is the robust architecture, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of future loads that it can take, what are the kind of integrations we can take it forward to, and also in terms of security and stability, which has to be established upfront. Next slide, please. I would like Jalpa to take over the possible solutions and a case study next. Over to Jalpa. Jalpa, we are not able to hear you. You're on mute.
Yeah, hope I'm audible now.
Yeah, we're not able to see the presentation.
Now,
Yeah,
able to see it?
yes. Put it
Okay.
on run mode.
Yeah, yeah, done. Yeah, so thank you, Visa. Thank you for that. And sorry for this glitch. So, just to summarize, what Visa is trying to say is that the customer wants automation at an institution level, but they want the control at a transaction level. They are looking out for an end-to-end process automation, but they want to implement it at a feature level, right? So basically what customers ask is that they want to improve the enterprise level executions, but they want their visibility and they want to improve it at a task. So I know it sounds little complex. So now let's see what are the key solutions which we can offer for this critical ask from the customer. So what I have done, the solution is segregated into two main aspects. One is a technical aspect and one is a domain aspect. So segregated mainly on the latest tools technology that we have. So primarily we are seeing a lot of low code, no code testing tools which are there. They are enabled with RPA, AI, ML kind of solutions also. Even cloud have their own native testing solutions. Now what they bring into table is that they bring in a very low kind of coding which is required in terms of testing, and hence whenever there is any change, the overall cycle time has observed to be reduced. The second aspect of the technology is the digitization and the upgrades. So here they include the adoption of our latest technologies. They will also bring into the table the very minimal involvement of the human being, because now a lot of hassle free or the end to end processes are happening flawlessly. The second aspect, as I said, are upgrades. One important area here is also the architecture that we have. It has to be really scalable in any big enterprise, because all these applications, the tools are now highly integrated. Also their technologies are varied, also their path in terms of progress of any upgrades or any process itself is CRs could be set. Hence we enable them to be a microservice based with end-to-end integration to be there. The second and important aspect in terms of assurance will also be our domain knowledge, which has been there, but now it has become even more critical with all these technologies in place, because every customer wants their features to be there as per their industry. And we have also observed across industries there could be a lot of features which can be cross leveraged. This entire platform together with this technology and domain have to be bundled up together, and it has to be protected further in terms of the security testing also, and all other types of NFR testing. It could be your performance testing, accessibility testing, accuracy, because only then our platform can be stable and can adhere to the key ask. One very critical aspect is channelizing and funneling the incoming requirement in such a big enterprise, because every LOB will have its own priorities. They are unable to do the cross leveraging of the learning which is happening in one department of the same customer. They don't know which tool which might be adopted by one of them is better and can be continued, and which other should not be. To address all this primarily and channelizing it, we need somebody like an automation COE kind of team. So basically the first team which will be talking to the end business users, they will do a feasibility study, they will analyze the results which we are getting. Based on that, they will do a hand holding back to our dev team, our QA teams, and ensure that the automation KPIs are matched, and also the value is delivered at the engagement level. Let me give you a very small example which will help us to join all these dots. We have, for one of the India's largest financial customer, they had multiple automation solutions, but at some point in time they were unable to reap the benefits because all these were working in silos. They had limited understanding and view on how these automation are giving benefits to them for that each of their LOBs. And that is when we could bring into the table the enterprise level process automation solution, because now the dev as well as QA cycle were largely reduced, because now the QA was mainly restricted to the integration aspect of it. And hence they were able to build, enhance, and execute with the clarity on the roadmap, and keeping in mind the AI objectives at the enterprise level. So these are the solutions. Let me also tell you about how we are able to do something. Just back I said how we have to actually, we have done it for one of our customer. Now for a typical retail customer, we can always understand that major, what are the major challenges. One biggest challenge is their competition. Second is their upscale, their cross sales, large human intervention in terms of ticketing, customer services, right, the cost which is available to that. So for one of our customer, when they approach us, they wanted to understand, as they say, okay, there is no one giant step, it is basically a small baby step together which can help us to reach there. And this is, believe me, this is very much true for our automation journey. For this customer, we started as a baby step. Post a basic due diligence, we identified few use cases and we just started the automation for them. The assurance part here was also hand in hand along with every aspect of progress in terms of platform that we made. The second year we could see that now that they have stabilized, we extended that same automation to their other departments also, like operations, marketing. We took it for the other geographies also. And this was the time when we started learning with them in terms of, and started telling them that now it's a time they should think about the going on the cognitive aspect of it. The third year was the year when we could step into the cognitive aspect. We could bring in the chatbots, but we started with FAQ kind of chatbot. We brought in OCR, but this was mainly the very basic or the entry level chatbot. With all this in the testing aspect, what we brought was that for all this testing also, we brought in the tools which could work in line with them and help them at a platform level, so that when that platform was deployed, along with that the overall stability and automation KPIs could be not only observed, monitored, but could also be overachieved. The fourth year was the year when we could highly enhance the automation. We were in the quite mature stage. We could also bring in, and we started thinking on mainly on the predictions aspect. How could, the self learning and all started coming into picture. And for testing also, it was mostly on the low code no code side, and mainly the regression aspect which we were focusing on. And currently for the customer, we are focusing on how the AI adoption can happen for them, and how the more of the self learning and the self healing aspect of this entire platform can be brought for them. So we'll talk about benefits and key ROI. So I will again request Visa to speak about them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jalpa. So, from a benefits perspective, what is it that we are looking at through this automation and automation, process automation led testing? Basically, we have all the levers to reduce the cost of customer acquisitions, as earlier the manual and the time consuming processes of the document verification, follow up, background check, all this got automated. So then also you are looking at increased sales or revenue per employee, because the employees from the enterprise are now acting more like a checker than as a maker, in case where earlier before automation they were doing all the kind of jobs which is of not necessary for them. Then also in terms of overall customer satisfaction, the KPIs were measured, and the feedback, increasing recurring business from the same customers, these all got improved. And of course, higher NPS score as a focus. So basically, we are looking at customers' business KPIs going into, critical factor when you go in for automation and automation-based testing. Of course, there is a year-on-year increase in revenue and growth, and also in terms of an IT investments, wherein the IT ops got introduced, and the tickets and reopening of tickets, those got reduced, as well as from customers shift from their comfort in getting information via automation rather than calling service desk or approaching a branch by because they have basically implemented a branch or a branch automation, or in terms of any of the customer service automations here. Now, I've taken an example here for retail domain, wherein we talk about what are the typical KPIs and how do we map it to your automation solutions. So, end of the day, customer is going to look at his KPIs, the business KPIs. So, example out your average cost of customer acquisition, retention, sales per employee, and all this. What are the kind of solutions we are giving in the automation in terms of your chatbot, your voice bot, virtual assistants to reduce the work, especially in the pandemic situation. This has become a very key norm, in fact, in the BFSI industry, in the hospitality industries, and all of them, which we could do. And of course, the virtual branch, and if a typical insurance side, having a virtual branch and giving the experience of being in that specific branch. And what is the impact of that automation? Your manual tasks are got automated, as well as you were able to follow all the compliance related aspects very quickly. And of course, customer satisfaction and reduction in queries. You get a lot of leverage on reducing your margins from a business perspective. And what are the benefits that we get out of it? Higher profitability, increased sales, increase in customer satisfaction index, and the customer experience. The customer experience through all the conversational AI that got implemented is something very commendable that we could manage. And then, of course, faster TAD and reduced time to market. That's a critical aspect in every engagement that the business is looking at us for. And of course, operational resilience through improvements, a lot of improvements in your operational way of operations, improving your processes and things like that. Finally, we would like to conclude with the future roadmap. Jalpa, go to this. Yeah, over to
Yeah,
Jalpa.
yeah. Yeah, so thanks, Visa, for that. So now we will talk about what is the future, where we touch base upon many this type of testing that we spoke about. So if we say how the testing is now developing, or we see it will be developing over a period of time, is now the testing will be more on the cognitive application, because the application themselves are getting more and more intelligent by themselves. So what will happen as a second base is our testing will have to be AI based, because they will also have to cope up along with the speed with which the applications are coming. And for that to happen, they will have to do a self learning, and those kind of tools will have to become which are more efficient than the one that we have today. So here I have listed few types of testing like image testing, NLP testing, self-healing testing. So when I say NLP, it is basically your natural language. Self-healing, build over testing, these are more like if there is a failure or if there is any breakage, then the testings are able to bring those test cases up by themselves, because of those small glitches they shouldn't fail, because it could be in terms of some change somewhere happening, or those kind of. So a self-healing aspect has to come. Bigger aspect is also on the reduction and the testing bots for bots. So basically, these two aspects are mainly related to that if there is any incremental change, or if there is any new test data which comes in, and how a bot itself will create its own clone bot with a little different feature there to take care of it, and they both can run in parallel. And final and the futuristic aspect will be the risk based and the predictive testing, where the testing will be able to tell more efficiently than what we are able to predict today in terms of where things can go wrong, what it can lead to, and how the testing focus has to be there. For this entire thing, I'll just explain with a small example which we very recently had an experience with. It was for one of the large banking customer. So the challenge which they had thousands and thousands of documents, in fact lakhs of documents, and they wanted the entire thing not only to be adopted in terms of development, but that entire thing had to be tested. So what the approach, if we go big bang, we are going to get lost. So the approach that we took was we broke down into various phases. The first phase, we just focus on the extraction aspect of it and segregation, the classification. For doing that, we did the image tracing. When we learned and when we focus on those documents, we realized that there were certain logos, there were certain key placeholders within those documents, because there were multi vendors, but within vendors also there were multiple templates. To understand which category of documents those were, so we used the image testing for segregation. In the phase 2, we brought into the NLP testing, because then we brought into the language aspect. There were majorly a couple of languages which were there, like Spanish language was there, and one more. So they wanted us that English language extraction along with Spanish. So that is where the NLP aspect came into. Finally, when we were working on all this, we realized that there were a lot of places where human intervention was happening, because once those extractions were happening, we had to initially put in a human in loop to ensure whether those extractions were correct or not. And that is when this healing and the build over testing came into picture, where in spite of just relying on a human being, gradually we were able to make the our testing code itself decision makers there, and the human intervention we could bring down nearly from 50% to almost to 20% at the end of our cycle. And finally we realized that this entire thing was happening in phase. We had to break it down almost up to 5 phases. First three phases were purely on the new feature, but the fourth and fifth were primarily on the regression aspect. So whenever a new template used to be brought in, when a new vendor was introduced, how the template-less extraction, the template-less testing of this entire thing can be done. And that is where the intelligent regression and the bot testing came into feature. And currently we are discussing with the client on how more risk-based and predictive testing can also be brought into play for them. So with this, we will like to end our session here. So please let us know if you want to know any of this area which I or Visa spoke about in further detail. We'll happy to answer that.